7 o'clock. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot of information to give you today. So welcome everyone. This presentation is, I would love to use OER, but ... And so I'm going to credit or maybe blame Lydia Anderson for the idea behind this presentation. This was kind of her idea that we, not only talk about OER, the normal things that we present every semester, but address some of the barriers that faculty have and departments have in employing and utilizing OER. So this is a faculty panel, and as we take turns, we'll introduce each person. And let's see, what we're going to be looking at today is I'm going to try to keep it as quick as I can in the beginning here, give you some definitions of OER and ZTC, and just talk about some reasons why it's important for students and also for us instructors. And then just really quickly, I want to briefly mention the grant opportunities that are out there right now. So we have our faculty panel who are from all different disciplines, 4 different disciplines. And then they'll each have a turn to talk about some of the barriers that they were able to overcome in using OER for their courses and their departments. And then at the very end, Linda is going to show us where we can find OER for your discipline, where you can look. Okay, so in terms of questions, we will try our best to stop periodically and answer questions as we go. So you can save your questions for those times. And then if you are joining us on Zoom, feel free to just type in your question at any time. We'll save that until we have time to address them. If for some reason we don't get a chance to answer a question or we miss it, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, Sally Potter, or Linda Kobashigawa. Okay. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is exactly what we mean by OER. Okay. So when we talk about open educational resources, openly licensed materials, these are things that have what's called a CC license on them. And so the author or creator of that material has intentionally put a license on it to show other people that are interested what exactly they can do. So the great thing about using OER in your courses is that you can take these materials that are free for us, and you can distribute them to your students. You can make copies of them. Most of the time you can even edit them if you don't like the wording, or you want to include some different information. It's really easy to edit them. So that's what we mean by OER. It's talking about the license. Now, sometimes, or most of the time, OERs are free for our students, but sometimes there could be a cost associated with them, especially if you require your students to print those materials. Then there would be the cost of the paper, the ink, that type of thing. Okay. Then there's another acronym, ZTC, zero textbook cost. And so this is referring to not necessarily the license, but this is referring to the cost. So if you look in self-service, you can see all the sections of courses that are ZTC. That means that there is no textbook cost for those sections. But the materials that the instructors are using are not necessarily openly licensed. So other kinds of materials that are ZTC but are not included in OER are things like anything that you can get from the library, anything that our students have access in the library, you can use those in your course. Websites, so anything that's free online, that you can link to, you can use those in your course. You can link them for students. Another type of ZTC are class sets. So if you have a particular grant or some funding from the college, sometimes we're able to buy class sets of textbooks and materials. And then, of course, you can, write your own. So you can see that, that getting to zero textbook cost, there are more ways than just using OER. And I'll give you an example. I teach linguistics, and there really is no openly licensed materials for intro linguistics courses. There's no OER available. So what my colleagues and I did was we scoured the databases, FCC databases, and the web, and put together 2 linguistics courses that are completely free. They hit our COR objectives and SLOs, but we're not using very many OERs. Okay. Why is it important to lower textbook costs, use OER and ZTC materials? Of course, the most obvious answer to that question is it saves students money. So all of us who are involved in OER, that's kind of probably our main reason why we got into this. But then there are some other advantages that come along with that. So for example, the materials are very flexible. Like I said, you can take these materials, you can cut them up, you can give your students part of it, combine 2 different OER materials, and you can customize them, meaning that you can, you don't just have to follow what a commercial textbook says. You can actually create the material, create the content. We can make it representative for our students. And that is particularly important for our marginalized populations. The ZTC and OER materials are typically up to date because it's anything that we can get on the web. So for commercial textbooks, you have to wait at least a couple of years before the studies are published, and then students have access to them. But when you have a ZTC course, you can refer to those right away, like the next day or the next week that a study comes out. They're accessible. So when you are working with documents that you can manipulate, it's really easy to make those accessible to students. They can be given to them in print or digitally. And then in terms of student success, there is a lot of research out there right now that shows that students who are in ZTC courses get better grades, have better retention rates, have fewer DF and withdrawals. And the reason is because we all know, as instructors, we know that when you require students to buy your textbook, not everybody can do it on the first day. Sometimes they try to kind of wait and see if they really need the textbook, especially if it's very expensive. Sometimes they will, order the wrong edition of the textbook. And so these are all barriers for students and their success. And then, of course, these materials are immediately available online right away. First day of class, you just link them in your Canvas course. You don't have to worry about financial aid checks dropping. You don't have to worry about access codes and dealing with that whole thing. You don't have to worry about the bookstore ran out of the number of copies that I need. All of those problems disappear. Every student in your class has materials on day 1, and they're all ready to go. Okay. So I want to just really quickly, I'm not going to talk about this too much, but there was a first round of ZTC grants that came out last year. And Fresno City College applied for 6 different what are called pathways, ZTC pathways. So a pathway is either a degree or a certificate that is CTE. So this is what we're working with right now. These funds are paying faculty to create the materials, to adopt the materials, and to be able to deliver fully zero textbook costs pathways to students. The second round of grants is in the works right now. The deadline is mid-December. So if you think you're interested in applying for one of these grants, either a single course or your entire program, let me know and we can look into which one is going to be the most appropriate. There are different stipulations and we're still getting information from the chancellor's office. They kind of clarify information as we go. So these are available and I can come to your department meeting to talk to your whole department, meet with your dean for support, just meet with you one-on-one. So reach out to me and we can talk about that if that's something that you're interested in. Okay. I don't know if Seth is here. I shut down the participants. Seth, are you here yet? He's not. Okay, so we will skip chemistry for now. Seth is going to be joining us on Zoom. So let me introduce Home Studies faculty, Amanda Mason. She's going to be talking about her experience with their communications.
Thanks, Sally. All right. Hi, everyone in person and online. I'm Amanda, as Sally mentioned, and I'm a communication instructor here on campus. So I'm going to share with you today my story of how I got into OER and then some of the barriers or hurdles that I encountered on my journey with our department and how we've overcome some of those and show you some of our finished products in regards to our OER textbook. So I was hired here full-time 4 years ago, and I was an adjunct before that here. And at the time, our department was pretty much all using the same textbooks, which I think is pretty common on campus, right? Our department had gotten together and, researched and even written and, found a publisher that everyone liked and some books that everyone liked, and everyone was using that across the board. Unfortunately, they were pretty expensive, and which I think is pretty common, right, with a lot of publishing companies. And they were online textbooks, which were great and convenient for a lot of our students. But there are some issues, right? Like students can only access it for that semester. And so if they needed to retake the class for whatever reason, then they were having to repurchase that extensive access code. But for instructors, there were some, benefits that it came with quizzes and exams, all those sorts of things. So there were some, positives for instructors, negatives for students. And I was also using the same textbooks. And as an adjunct, I was starting to become a little disgruntled with the publishing company and with making my students pay so much money for these textbooks. And so when I was hired as a full-time faculty member, I was interested in OER. I'd heard the term, but I wasn't really familiar. And so I was like, let me just join this committee with Sally and Linda and find out more about it. And so as I learned more about how accessible OER is and equitable for our students, I was like, yay, I want to do this. And I want to try to convince my department members as well to join me. So of course, as you can imagine, that comes, with some obstacles and hurdles. So some of the barriers that I faced is, but everyone is using these other books, right? Including myself. That's what I was using as well. And OER was new to all of us. And so it's, a bit uncomfortable when you go and you're trying to convince everyone to move away from all of these textbooks that we've all been using for a while, right? Another barrier that goes along with that, but change is hard, right? And same for me, right? It feels daunting when you've already chosen some other textbooks and now you need to go out and branch out and research and potentially even create a new resource for your students. That can be scary, right? Change is scary sometimes. And then also, OER was pretty new to our campus at that time. I feel like we didn't have any of this professional development around it yet. And so a lot of people just weren't even aware of it, including myself. So the questions were, what is this? And where do I even start? Right. So those were probably the biggest hurdles. And some ways that we overcame those was it just takes one person to start. Right. So as I mentioned, our department was all using the same textbook. And I was that one person that I was just like, let me join this committee, see what it's about. I'm interested in OER. And then as soon as I started to really get interested and into it, then I became kind of that like annoying person in the department meetings, just like plugging OER constantly. And thankfully, I had a couple other colleagues that were like, oh yeah, like we think this is a great idea. We're interested in as well. And so I was able to convince them to write a textbook or remix a textbook together. And that kind of got the ball rolling. So really, if you all in the online world and here, if you're the people that are interested in OER, you could be that person that starts, bugging people in your department, maybe, have one-on-one conversations, see who is also kind of interested and try to sway them. And then that kind of just starts getting things rolling. And so the other thing is, change is hard, but you don't have to do everything all at once, right? So with our journey, we started with one textbook that impacts a lot of students, which is our Com1 public speaking textbook. And that's where we started, right? So it was just a few of us. We started there and now we've branched out, right? So I know it's daunting sometimes, but just start small, right? Even if you're just starting with one class, one workbook, whatever, you can start there and just keep working, right? So now 4 years later, our department is mostly using all OER, which is amazing for all of our different classes. Yeah, so super exciting. And so again, just start small. And there's also so many helpful resources and people out there, right? So as I mentioned, some of our colleagues here at FCC worked on a textbook together. There are quite a few communication textbooks out there already in existence, but there are definitely some gaps in our discipline. And we found out that a lot of instructors at Clovis Community are also writing a lot of OER textbooks, which the amazing thing about OER is that they're doing all the work and then we can be like, cool, we can use that textbook now, right? So get to know people across other colleges in your discipline or across the state, right? And you might find that they are working on stuff or you can partner up with other people. I know for interpersonal, there were communication instructors from all over the place working together through ASCCC to write a textbook. There was like 12 of them. And so the work doesn't feel as much when you have a lot of people getting together and working on things. So to kind of show you what our final product was, so as I mentioned, we worked on a public speaking textbook. It now lives in LibreText, which is one of the common OER, places, programs, websites to work with, and to make it even easier, right? Because we're always thinking of how do I make this easy for people to adopt, right? If we're trying to get people in our department and our discipline is to jump on the OER bandwagon, how can I make this easier for people? So we also, once our textbook was done, we put it into a Canvas page that lives in Canvas Commons. So now people can access the textbook and it's already broken down into modules. And over time, again, change doesn't have to happen in one semester. Over, a couple of years after we created the textbook, I started creating ancillaries. So now we have chapter quizzes that go along with each chapter. And so it all lives on that Canvas page in Canvas Commons. And because public speaking is a class that a lot of our part-time faculty teach, this makes it really easy for them when they're hired last minute or they're not sure which textbook to use. They can go plug this into their Canvas courses and it's already done for them. Right. So once you become that OER champion, think of ways also that you can make those barriers easy for others and easy for them to adopt. So then people are like, oh, okay, this isn't so hard. I can do this. Right. So that's basically been my experience. Are we taking questions or just move on?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if anyone has a question for Amanda, maybe a question or two right now.
I don't see any.
didn't see in the chat.
Yeah, okay, Linda's gonna ask me one. Yeah.
What was the process? And so did you all, you and the other faculty who were first interested in OER, did you focus on one course or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so for the online people, the question was, did we just focus on one course when it was myself and two other faculty members interested? And yes, so we chose Prom 1 public speaking because we knew that course impacts the most students because it's a GE requirement. And so we were like, let's start there and start working on that textbook. That course, there's already a lot of OER out there. And so we just were able to pull what we wanted and what we thought we needed for our FCC students and remix and combine and create a new book for that course. Yeah. All right.
Okay,
Thanks everyone.
Okay, so Seth is here, and so I'm gonna actually go back to his slide. Okay, and then Seth, why don't you go ahead and just unmute?
All right, I think I am. Can you hear me?
You sure can.
Okay, thank you. So I just put a couple of bullets here to remind me to talk about these things, but I was gonna share over and show you our LibreText and stuff at some point. Can you guys see? I don't know what you guys can see in person. Are you seeing the screen?
Yeah,
now?
so what we're
see
seeing is your slide, and then I believe you should be able to share.
I just tried. It
when-
says I cannot share screen while the other participants sharing. So when I'm ready, I'll just have you. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, go for it.
So I'll just briefly sort of mention first that first point of faculty buy-in, because I think that is a lot of the problems. I unfortunately don't have too terribly much to share at this point, but so our first problem with faculty buy-in is about 10 years ago, we were working on some like lab texts. We inherited some stuff from faculty that had inherited from faculty. So we had some actual lab texts that were OER and created here at Fresno City College, since 30 years ago or something like that had been sort of passed down and updated. And we were working on those. And at the time in the early 2010s, maybe 2012, we had a colleague who just didn't see any value in that. He wanted to adopt a text that he had used at a previous college that cost extra money for students. So we were kind of talking this out as a department. Like, chemistry is famously expensive. You have this textbook to buy. At the time, online homework was becoming very popular. So they had to buy the new text that had the online homework code, or they at least had to separately pay for the online homework code. They have to buy a lab coat, goggles, and a lab notebook for many of our classes, and then also this lab text. So you can imagine it adds up to like $400, $450. And we were talking about this, okay, so we're going to update this lab text that we inherited from, former faculty to make it more modern and better. He's like, well, why don't we just not do that work and adopt this extra lab text for $40 from these people that I had used. And we're like, well, saving students $40 is, a good thing. And he just saw no value in that. It's like, well, how are they going to do this at university when they go on? I remember what he said, and I'm like, well, that doesn't not really concern me. I'm just trying to save him money right now. And fortunately, that resolved itself because he went to a different college, not through that issue. He was great. In all the other ways, we got along really well, but his wife didn't like living in Fresno, and he moved. So everybody else who was still here saw it the way that the rest of us saw it, that was just good in its own right, that saving students that $40 was great. So then we've had really no disagreement over that. So a colleague and I just blocked off our Fridays and bit the bullet. And that first text was for our introductory class, which has the largest number of students. Then we rolled that to our two general chemistry courses. And with really everybody would love it as long as we were willing to put in the work. So everybody did. It was great. And as we've hired new faculty, we've been able to hire faculty that share that vision of just helping students in that way, even if that was before we heard all of the data now that you're hearing, just that we were just helping students save money because they were already spending so much money on our courses. Saving them that $50 or $40 was just, we felt good about, and we put in our own time for that. So that was like the first barrier that I remember. And it ended up sort of resolving itself just by who we hired and how that happened. So then the next thing on the list, it does get kind of a little bit more complicated, and the faculty buy-in kind of works its way back in eventually. But so that was the lab procedures. So then a lot of faculty had that vision, and so they started hearing about the value of OER and hearing about other people getting into it. And so some even got on some grants where they tested out some OER textbooks through OpenStax and a few other places. But the problem is all of that work was being done at the general chemistry level. All of it was, because that's what UCs and CSUs start at. They start at the general chemistry level, and we start at the introductory chemistry level, which some CSUs do start at as well, but UCs don't even teach that class, which is like a general course that leads into nursing and other fields. And that's the majority of our students are in that introductory chemistry course. So it took some years. There just wasn't text available. And then people from community colleges started getting on board, and we had to bite the bullet. And I was at the time able to get a little bit of release time and adopt a LibreText. And so that's what I was going to share. I'm a big proponent of the LibreText platform. If I can get the proper thing up on the screen. It's right here. So LibreText. So I don't know if you've all heard of this by now, but it is so easy. So some other instructors at community colleges started developing material for the introductory level. And it was so easy to like pull someone else's text and just start editing it on my computer. And then I sort of identified these gaps that this stuff hadn't been done yet. And I was actually totally planning, I had time to do it. I was totally planning to author that all myself. But in some conversations, I found out that other community college faculty had been working on those exact same issues, and that they were like a month ahead of me. And so I just started stealing their material on LibreText, and it was so easy, just finding all the different colleges that had started using LibreText and just piecemeal stealing and editing, where I was able to get what I think is actually a really high quality text. There's some really cool stuff. Like there's a few things that I feel like personally I or some other faculty here at Fresno City College have developed our own unique things for, that I think are better than what's out there in textbooks. And one of them, which I was going to show you guys, is just a video on chemical reactions that in about 20 minutes, I think gives students an overview of sort of what we're doing here. And I can't remember where I put it exactly. I should have checked this. So that's one of the amazing things about LibreText is you can, oh, is this the right? Oops. So you can put anything you want into these. It's just like a live, internet document. They can print it out and they can purchase a copy of this for pretty inexpensive. They get to choose what kind of binding and what kind of color they want. But you can actually just drop in your own videos. So this is me, my own video that's on YouTube about chemical reactions. It's just this one place that I like this video. It's like my favorite one. I think it's a better introduction to the topic than in any textbook. So I can just drop that YouTube video in. And I've done that a few other places that are not mine, but I've come across a video that I think on YouTube is just better than any print textbook can do. And so I've dropped those YouTube videos directly in. There's some things that we've done in our classrooms, spotlighting local chemists, and that's our new project for the fall. Is we're just going to drop in these local chemists that live in this area of Fresno and practice here, that we're going to drop in our LibreText, and it takes like no effort to edit this. It's so incredible. So I'm just a big proponent of this. Some of these graphics are actually the same ones we had already authored for our lab text, and we just pulled them over to like explain this idea to students. So yeah, so that's just my little foray into how wonderful and easy to use LibreText is. and how you can put stuff there that cannot be in any text. So this is better than what any other print text that I'm aware of does through a publisher. You can just pull from anything, any kind of material you want to link to. Videos can be embedded, as well as anything really you want to link them to another site to try out a simulation or something like that. I mean, text could sort of tell them where to go. So I guess text can do some of that, but sort of the open nature of this makes it so simple and easy to just drop in a link really quick and send students to go run a simulation of this at another place. Feel free if you have any questions. I'm just mostly rambling, so to just drop those in the chat and I can stop anytime. So then the next barrier to overcome, so that knocked out introductory chemistry, and we've been live editing it through the semesters as we go. Anytime someone says, hey, I have a better way to say this, then we just work it in. When a student says, I didn't understand this, then we just write a new version and just paste that in, like, as we go each semester. It's so easy. And so then we started to then roll this onto the other classes. Some famous chemistry text, the author sort of got to retirement age and had stopped hardly making any money. So he just recently released that as OER for organic chemistry series. So the ball is really rolling, and all the faculty in our department have now sort of, as stuff comes available, thought it was great to go ahead and adopt. But then this big problem that we're still wrestling through is in the 2010s, everybody pretty much switched to online homework, and there were a lot of advantages to this. Some of them for students, not all of them advantages for students. The major one is that that there's live grading and teachers don't have to do it, so that students can get immediate feedback on whether they were right or wrong, and the instructor, doesn't have to have a quick turnaround time giving them their physical paper back and spend all their time doing that. So most of our instructors were like, I would love to use that textbook, but I'm still going to make my students pay for this. Or I will use that textbook. That's great. No argument. This is fantastic. Students don't have to pay for a textbook. But I'm still going to make my students pay $70 for the semester for online homework. And so that's great. We'd moved the needle a lot. Lab text is free. Text is free. We've saved them maybe $200 at this point, but we're still making them pay $70 for this online homework. So that's where we're still sort of wrestling with. But this organization came along called MyOpenMath. I hope you guys can see that right now.
Yeah, yeah, we can.
MyOpenMath is unbelievable. To use it as an instructor, it integrates better with Canvas than anything else that exists. I've never seen any tools, online homework, integrate this well. You can, it's live updating their score on Canvas as they're working on problems. It's amazing. To start your new course each semester, you don't even have to go to MyOpenMath. You just, on Canvas, when you copy your shell over, the first MyOpenMath experiment you click on as an instructor, and it just says, basically, do you want me to duplicate your last semester's course in MyOpenMath along with it? And you just click yes, and boom, it's all duplicated over. A new course is created that has the same name as your Canvas course, and you didn't even have to go to the MyOpenMath website. It's really incredible. The downside is that if I want to write a new question in MyOpenMath, I do have to understand a little bit of, at minimum, HTML, if not some other scripting languages. So that's kind of hard. And there's no developer doing this for you. So someone somewhere at some community college has to, or CSU or UC has to be putting in the work. It's free to use, it integrates, it's great, but someone has to be putting in the work to create this. So a few of us on staff have those skills. Some people at other colleges have done some of it as well and have written these tools, have written some questions. And basically, it just took some faculty deciding that they're gonna put their time into learning how to do this and actually doing it. So Patricia, Adapt is LibreText's online homework, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. We've talked to people. I have not used Adapt.
Yeah,
Talked
yeah,
to
it
people
is.
about it, and I love LibreText. They have the best, like working with them is the best of any publisher or anything I've ever worked with. They're amazing. But my understanding is My Open Math is far superior to Adapt for our purposes.
Yeah,
I've
I
talked,
see that. Yeah, I see it.
I've let LibreText give me demos, and it's not even close. I hope one day it's great and they can use them together. But
Yeah, I'm fine with the LibreText. It works fine, and I'm gonna start the semester. No problem. It's just the adapt thing that,
it's not, yeah, it's not there. But My Open Math is what's your discipline, Patricia?
uh, it's French.
French. So My Open Math, I mean, I have colleagues who have written text prompts where students enter text and they've written a grading algorithm to grade the text prompt for them. So that is even possible on My Open Math, but it takes some advanced coding and analytical skills to look for certain words and deciding an automated grading algorithm for a text prompt. So
Yeah.
I doubt My Open Math is what you need for French, but for all of the
Yeah,
science,
it's not.
it works fantastic.
Yeah, I just wish, but we're working on it, so hopefully we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. Yeah, so for the sciences, My Open Math is it. It just is, there's a development hurdle and it's coming. They're on their end building tools for us as chemists. And we're implementing those and writing new code. We've actually switched so that our free lab manual now has a My Open Math lab report where students can fill it in and get immediate feedback in our class with us. We're of course in the room with them to answer their questions as well, but the form is like live grading them, live providing them feedback if they're like entering stuff wrong. And that's really my colleague Catherine Uvarov and her husband Sergey Uvarov have mastered that skill of My Open Math like incredibly, and they've done so much work that has not been paid. But it's just finding someone to do that. I do have those skills, but I'm not put the work in that Catherine and Serge have. They have done an amazing amount of development for us in that ability. My colleague Nick Corsipius and a couple of others have just, even some people who have no prior coding experience have just chosen to start learning that because they see the benefit to their students in doing that development on My Open Math. So it's been an incredible tool for us. Clovis Community College also has a couple of faculty there that are actively developing a lot of material on My Open Math. And it's great because it only really has to be done once. Once you write that, it does take time to write that homework problem. But then you can send it to all your colleagues and only one person had to do it. Everybody can use those problems forever. They're free. It's great. It's not like a not like a publisher thing where they developed it once, but then you have to make students pay for it every semester forever. We put in the work once and then students get to use it for free forever. And so that's really where we're at now. We have everybody's on board in our discipline. Everybody's slowly moving this direction as they have time and ability. They're adopting LibreText and building My Open Math homework. And the My Open Math team builds chemists new tools, and then we import those tools and write our questions from them. And slowly that's just working its way through. And everything that we do at the community college I think is easily solvable with those two tools for chemistry.
Okay, let's see.
Did I use up more than my amount of time?
Yeah, getting there.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I think so since Seth is joining us via Zoom and he's doing other trainings today, if you have a question for him, you can pop it in the chat. And then maybe you can stop sharing and I'll go back to sharing here. And
Sorry for taking everybody's time.
oh, you're good, you're good. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so our next faculty that's going to be sharing is James Thornburg, yeah, who teaches CAD. Okay.
So my journey is kind of the same, but a little bit different from everybody else here. I just looked it up and I started as an adjunct here at Pleasant City 19 years ago in CIT. And they had a great thing in Blackboard with the text materials from the publisher, as well as assignments that each of the instructors had created. And Dennis was just here, and I was hoping he'd be here when I said this. But it was a great community of help and support and tons of resources to build my class and make it good. I always felt like the textbook's got this stuff, but the students didn't buy it or had problems, and I wanted to go beyond, so I had to do extra things in class. And it was great. And then I started teaching, the adjunct thing where you have to teach 3 or 4 different places. Some for-profits, when actually finally started teaching drafting, which is my discipline, and the textbook sucked. There's things in the textbook that are wrong. The examples are wrong. Homework sucked. There's so I had to just recreate all my own assignments and everything. And it was an expensive book. And as for-profit, they basically got it with their class. So I was like, all right, at least I've got the book. And then in 2009, I started at Merced College. So a lot, like student population here, they can't afford to buy the book. It's a $150 book. And so it's like, okay, what can I do? I found the first couple of years, another publisher that had a book that actually had better examples, and it was less. It was like $50. So that's my first thing, but I was still adding all my own assignments and things like that. And that first year, or probably my second year, I just set a flip camera on the desk in the front and recorded my lectures for the entire year, and then put all of those lectures on YouTube. And so that way students could go back and watch the lecture, and then all right, well, I've got that. And they're listening to me give the content. I used Captivate to create some interactive exercises and things like that I could use in class. I'm like, well, I'm making all this stuff. Why do I need the textbook? And so I've been in ZTC for at least 10 years, maybe 12. And so through that time, I've had difficulties. And so one of the roadblocks that I want to use the OER, but is I started looking for OER. So I was working my doctorate, and non-formal education was kind of a focus. And I found lots of things because there's a time that where MITx was starting to come out and MOOCs were huge and all that. But there was nothing specific to my discipline. And the textbooks are always lagging because we're getting new versions of software every year. Textbooks are lagging back, trying to get new software. So throw that away. And it was trying to kind of find my own way with it. So I just started okay, this is the way I want to do it. And I want to teach it this way with these things. So I started creating more activities, more videos on specific things. Sometimes there were the full lectures, and then I started breaking it up into smaller pieces, covering specific topics. And then also I went out to find other resources, things that I didn't have to create. So that became the kind of more the curation part of the OER and ZTC of finding things that are out there. So this little picture here of the eyeballing game, it's a great exercise. A lot of what we do is graphic, it's visual, it's finding angles and things like that. And that helps them visualize where there should be, like on this example, they have to make it into a parallelogram. Another one, they have to find the center point of a circle or the center point of a triangle. Things like that, make lines perpendicular to each other. And it gives them a score based on how fast they do it and how accurate they are. And so I found this probably 15 years ago, and I was using it in all my classes. And then it went away for a few years because the original publisher had made it, that person's website went down and it was gone. And then every year I kind of look and search and try and find it again. And then probably about 6 years ago, I found it again. And so now it's back in, and it's part of every single class of mine. So first thing we do on the first day, pop this up, play with it. We have games with it, prizes. But also other things like that out there also. My videos that I make myself, as well as other videos, there's some advanced topics that we have that I found YouTube videos that are really good at describing those concepts. And so I just put those in. We also have, it's hard to go do field trips, but how it's made is there. So we have how it's made episodes on YouTube that we embed. I embed in the class. It shows them the entire process and everything a lot better than I can describe. And we don't have to take the time to go find a field trip and do all that. Also building, kind of expanding on my own documentation. So I haven't gone to doing LibreText or any of that. I've thought about it, but I keep everything inside the shell, inside the course, trying to pull more into the course so that they don't have to go out to do other things. So this example of one of my newest examples, you exercises, sorry, first day of school, where I'm having a donkey last year. And so I start with a video talking about the concept. And then we have some guided practice to go through. At the start of the semester, it's very detailed. Do this step, one step at a time. And then as the course goes on, it's all right, now do this set of things to get to this point based on what you've already done. And then with everything, there's always a reflection. So they have to turn in a picture of what they've done. They have to give me a response of what was the hardest thing they did. And the problem was the most important thing they learned on the assignment, and what questions do they still have. And so when I'm grading, and I grade on a mastery, so it's either right or they do it again. And so when I grade, I look at it, instantly tell right or not, and then I look at their reflection. And so I respond to them. If their assignment's right, cool. What are the questions? What questions do they have? And I comment. If their problem is wrong, they did the wrong dimension or something, I can say, okay, you need to work on fixing this. And then I can also give them more response to their, they can say, I didn't really get it because of this. I can respond to that. And because of that, I can respond to lots of assignments. I can go probably through 100 assignments in 20 minutes. And so during class, I'm in a computer lab, so they're all doing it there. I have the grade sheet open, and during class, as things get dropped in, I open up, grade, comment, go. Now I can go and help people. If no one's asking for help during lab, I can sit at the computer, grade some stuff to really reduce that grading burden of outside of class. And then the other thing was building sandboxes, kind of going back to what I loved about the CIT when I started, of having a resource for all the instructors in our department to use. I've always had it where I was the sole full time and with some adjuncts, and having that resource for them to be able to take, then adapt as they need to with all these things in it to help them with that process. So, no, any questions? I've lost the chat. Nope. All right, but if you have any questions, email me or come by Team 300.
Okay, so our last faculty that are going to be talking about their courses is David Yang, and he teaches math. So here's David, talks about math.
Hi, everyone. As Sally mentioned, my name is David Yang. I teach in the math department, and I've been using OER or ZTC, courses since about like 2016. I first heard about it at a math conference, and I came across the same kind of barriers that we've already talked about. Like, when I first started teaching, everybody was like, as a new faculty, like you're just handed these books. Hey, this is what we use, so use it. So it always felt like that was the status quo. You just kind of go along with it. And then when I found about that I actually had a choice, and then I was like, okay, well, let me look at what options are there. But at that conference, I heard about OER, and I heard about My Open Math, and I immediately was like, okay, I think that conference was in like December, and then that spring I already like switched all my classes over, and I kind of had just to learn as I went that semester, and so. As I started to get more comfortable with it, and I realized, this will be a great benefit to our students, because in the math department, just like with a lot of the other courses, textbooks are very expensive. We had online homework that if you didn't choose a textbook, you could buy that, but it was still very expensive. And students would come in, like having to wait for financial aid, and then they wouldn't be able to get their course materials in time or to be ready for the semester. So I felt like, this is just going to be a benefit to the students. Everything's going to be free. It's going to, it may be a little bit more work for me because I'm trying to learn this, but, I'm just like, that's one of our goals, right? Is to help our students succeed. And so I wanted to do that for them. And so as I started to become more comfortable with it, I realized, hey, maybe I should try to like get my, my department to have other faculty members start to switch over. And so I just started to hold these little informal sessions. I would like find a classroom and say, I'm going to be here. I'll show you guys, what you want, what I'm using. And actually took like, a couple of years before I finally like kind of started convincing more faculty to switch over. But a lot of the same issues, like, like faculty were already, set with the curriculum that they had, with the publishers that they were using, with the materials they had, because everything was already aligned with whatever they were using. And so they didn't want to deviate from that. And then this new thing, it's like, well, we're not really sure if it's actually on par with what we're currently using. And so, and coming from, publishers, there's a lot of resources. One big one that I was like really hesitant about was our test bank. With the publisher, it was a test bank. It was so easy, just drag and click, you make tests and make different versions of the test. So what I started to realize was, okay, well, there's a lot of things that are missing from OER with using OER. But then as we started to find more resources out there, like for example, like OpenStax has a whole bunch of like, resources just like a publisher would. And then with MyOpenMath, you could build tests on here. And what I do is I have my students take tests on MyOpenMath, even the in-person students, because they can then have like all different versions, and they don't have to worry about creating all these different versions. They each get a different version. And kind of going along with some of the stuff that we've talked about, today, yesterday and the day before with, having students have options for, improving their grades and stuff. So by doing that, now with the way I grade, I allow students to retake exams. So now they can retake an exam, and it's a completely new exam because now the problems are all different. You can create different problem sets, and they'll pull from all those different different problems. And so now it gives me a lot more flexibility in terms of how I grade and how I structure my class. And so it's become a really great resource for us. And, along with just being able to have these free resources, now we have, I would say 75% of our math department using OER in some capacity. And it's come to the point where, like in our department, we actually have quite a few of our instructors that are really great at the coding and the HTML language that it takes to write questions. Like Seth was saying, they were having a hard time with that. Our guys, some of our guys, they were just like, they looked at it, okay, they know what to do. So they started writing questions, and what we're able to do is, overcome one of those other hurdles was like, some of the questions that MyOpenMath had at the very beginning, they're very simplistic. They weren't very robust. The difficulty level maybe wasn't as on par with what the publishers are doing. But now we're able to write questions, and with that, then the question lives in MyOpenMath. Now anybody can pull it off, and we create these shells in MyOpenMath that everybody can use, including our adjuncts, which is a great tool for them, because now they come in, they don't have to worry about what do I use, how do I do this? Like we build courses in MyOpenMath, and then we can just share it with them, and then they can use it in their Canvas course and everything like that. And then the other thing that is a great tool for us is having the OER award grant, which I think the math department probably was one of the most used one. Like I think this last round, we probably had like maybe 8 or so awards, which is great, because now everybody's building their own their own version of their text that they like, but then that can also then be shared. And so I use that award to way back in, during COVID was when I think the first award came out. So I used that to do one of the book on LibreText, and again, I was able to structure it the way I wanted. I was able to input information to put information in that other textbooks didn't have, because of our unique like COR, that we were able to actually not have extra fillers in there. Just whatever we were covering was really in there, and you can totally modify it however you need. So yeah, so we had a lot of great success with it now. I would say there's not so much barriers as much anymore. And the neat thing is math is one of those topics that never changes, you know, math is always gonna be math. And so everybody that we have a lot of like the math community contributes really well to it. And so it makes it a lot easier for all of us now. And so I would say for us, our barriers were just from the very beginning, but now I say that there's very, very little barriers for us.
Okay, thank you, David. Okay. Me? Linda? Yeah, okay, yeah, you're up, yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna hear from Linda Kobashigawa. She is our OER librarian and also the chair of the OER committee, which is the Academic Senate Committee, and the ZTC Task Force.
How long do I have? 10 minutes left?
15.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Linda Kawashigawa. I'm a librarian here. I do the things that Sally mentioned. I'm also the OER liaison for Fresno City College for the ASCCC. And my role as liaison is in the description of this job is that I'm the point person for Fresno City College about OER. So if you are curious about OER, if you have questions about like where do I get started, what's available for this specific class, you can always just shoot me an email. I've helped several faculty around campus and just sending them some links to resources just to check out and see what's available. So contact me. And of course, on our campus, we are fortunate enough to have a faculty coordinator for OER, who is Sally. And so you can always reach out to Sally. She's kind of like our OG OER person. Like she's been doing this for a really long time and knows a lot of things and knows a lot of people. So she's an awesome resource as well. I'm going to run through real quick some of our go-to OER resources and repositories and collections. This is not a comprehensive list at all, but this is sort of just where I think folks who have been doing OER for a while go to. And then if any of our faculty who just presented have resources as well, feel free to let me know where you've also looked as well. I don't have LibreText on here because I figure everybody knows about LibreText, but you might not, but check LibreText out. A lot of the resources that I am going to show you, I'm sorry, let me pull this up, also link out to LibreText. So through the ASCCC, this is pretty much all of California Community College system. And the resources that they provide are highly curated on this site. They're either used by many faculty around the California community colleges and or created by them or adapted by them. So this is a really great spot to start. They have curated collections. And let me see if I can drop all of these links into the chat. Actually, let me do that. You're gonna do that? Okay, Sally will drop all these links into the chat so you can go straight there. And you can search OER by discipline. You can also look through the CSU General Education or CalGETSES, search by CIDs on the Cool for Ed website, which makes it super easy as well. And you'll find that because the spirit of OER is being able to share and use other folks' resources, a lot of the materials you'll find in here might overlap. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Cool for Ed later, but obviously it's a resource that the ASCCC is also citing here. So OER by discipline, it's just a list in alphabetical order for all disciplines. If you don't find your specific discipline in here, they're pretty comprehensive, I would say. But again, if you don't find yours in here, I would recommend reaching out to Sally or I, and we have a lot of connections through working with the ASCCC OERI as well. And we can reach out to some folks at different institutions. But as you can see, I'm going to go into American Sign Language here. It links out based on different courses and their levels. So there's a lot for ASL 1. A lot for ASL 2 as well. And so you can look at specific resources for each course. And again, this is specific to the California community colleges. Okay. Canvas Commons is also a really good place to find OER. It's not 100% OER. You can check the license for some things in Canvas Commons. The thing to know about Canvas Commons is that whereas the ASCCC OERI collections are highly curated, Canvas Commons is not highly curated. Anyone can put anything on Canvas Commons. So just keep note of that, but you can find really cool ancillaries, course packs or cartridges in here, or just like assessments, different things. One thing that I like to see is what the OERI has. In the ASCCC, they have quite a few things, including training, but they also have things specific to different subject areas. So this is a microbiology ancillaries project that someone created at the graduate level. Suzanne Joachim is a pretty big name in the OERI as well, who works a lot on microbiology resources. So you can get a little more specific. If it has the ASCCC OERI listed on there, it means it's been kind of vetted through the OERI or somebody in the OERI, so you can guarantee it's a little better quality than maybe something that some random person just threw up here. But this is a really good spot to search for things. And I'm going to click on this one just to show you where to look for licensing. So again, not everything in Canvas Commons is going to be openly licensed, but you can always check on the top right. This one tells me this is CC by non-commercial share alike. That's the specific license that tells me how I can use this content. And so look for that too, just to make sure that what you're using is open. And if it's not open, how to use it properly. Alrighty. The next one I want to show is OpenStax. OpenStax, again, highly curated. It's really good for GE and also college like learning skills. You can search, it's a smaller subject area than some of these other larger repositories, but everything on OpenStax is a full textbook. It also comes with cartridges for Canvas and Blackboard. And when I say cartridges, I just mean you can basically pull in the entire textbook and its resources into your Canvas, and it just integrates in there really well. And you can scroll through some of the different subject areas. This screen sharing is like blocking me from clicking. Okay, I'm gonna try this. No, okay. Keep trying. I'm gonna go to all. Okay. And then I'll click on some. So you can view some of the humanities textbooks, some of the math ones. A lot of our social science folks use OpenStax. I think some of our business folks use it too. And again, these are full textbooks that you can link to, you can drop into Canvas under, this is the entire textbook. You can just share that link with your students. They can go here, download the PDF for free. And then it also includes a lot of instructor resources. And what's great about OpenStax is that everything in here is peer reviewed. You can submit errata corrections and things like that if you see something that needs to be updated, or you can update it yourself, because these are all, I think they're just CC by, right? So you can use whatever you want from any of these materials, and it includes test items, PowerPoint slides, again, all of those ancillary materials. Okay, Skills Commons is really good for a lot of those CTE courses. So some of what James had discussed earlier, there's a lot of manufacturing in here, and some of the other like business office kinds of resources, as well as health kinds of topics. So you can look at different projects, you can search by material type, you can search by industry, you can just do a quick search specific to your subject area. I like Skills Commons, and I'm a librarian, so I love filters. I like being shown like all my filters and all the ways I can limit my search. So you can do specific by industry. I just search manufacturing in general. You can also search by material type. So if I want a full course, I can actually ask this to bring me something. I can look at different types of materials. Let me go back here. what level I want them to be at, what institution created it. So again, there's quite a few resources in here specific to career technical education. OER Commons. OER Commons and Cool for Ed are two larger, I guess, repositories, referatory kind of thing. They're just big collections of openly licensed free materials. And the cool thing about OER Commons, again, is that it is great for, spell correctly, for limiting. So if I want something specifically at the community college level or, between high school and college upper division, I can limit that way. I can search as broadly as I want to, or I can get a little more specific. If I wanted something to do with business writing, I can do that. And it has quite a few different types of resources in there. So if you look at some of the material types in here, you can look at entire textbooks, entire courses, or just specific activities or assessments and homework assignments and things like that. So you can find quite a few things in here. It gives you the license, the availability. When I say this is a referatory, it's because the resources are not housed within OER Commons, they just link out to it. So it's kind of just like one of those indexing databases that you find materials in, and then it links you out to where you can find the original. Anything else about OER Commons? Am I missing something? No, that's it. Okay. Cool for Ed. I mentioned this earlier. This is specifically for the three systems of public higher education in California. So the community colleges, the CSUs, and the UCs. Materials in here are used at within all three of those systems. They're contributed by all three of those. This is actually hosted by the CSU system through a grant they originally created. What I think is really cool, they've been doing a lot of work on Cool for Ed, is that if you're currently using a commercial textbook, and you have the ISBN for it, you can input the ISBN and it'll give you suggestions on related OER content. So that's a really nice way, easy way to kind of compare what you're currently using to what's out there via openly licensed materials. And then it also connects, as I mentioned, because due to the spirit of OER, sharing materials, Skills Common can be searched from here, as well as Merlot, which is also a massive referatory that you can search. And you can also search by course ID. So you can click in here, choose whatever subject area, whichever course ID is available in here, and look at those materials that are being used for those specific courses, how they've been evaluated, some of the ratings, they're all evaluated by faculty in the three systems of education too. So you can read their reviews to give you a little more insight. Alrighty, and then locally, locally we do have this list of OER that I created through one of our library LibGuides. Again, not a comprehensive list, but some of the things that I know faculty here are using and that are available through more reputable sources that I listed earlier in here. So you can go to our LibGuide, look at some of the OER available in different subject areas, and also get a little more information on vocabulary around OER. I know can be lots of confusion with all of the acronyms and all of the licensing and all of that. So we have some resources that you can refer to, and then some information about the award programs that are coming up. Have not updated it for this year because there's not a lot that we know yet, but that will be coming to our website and our and the LibGuide. And then again, I just want to reiterate that a lot of what our faculty do and what we've been hearing from the folks that presented today is that they're talking to other people in their discipline. If you were at Convocation yesterday and you saw Dr. Al-Masri's slide about our progress with ZTC sections, half of our sections, 51% of them last year, were zero textbook costs. A lot of that has to do with faculty adopting OER. And so chances are, if you're interested in OER, you're not sure where to start, there's probably somebody in your area who's already using it and who you can ask. So definitely reach out. Sally and I have a lot of conversations with different faculty throughout the college. So we have some ideas of who's using it, pretty good ideas, I would say. And so if you ask, especially for our adjunct faculty, if you're like, I'm not sure who to reach out to, we'll let you know who's using it. There are also OERI discipline leads, and these are also on that OERI website. And these discipline leads are folks from across the California community colleges who are like specialists or leaders basically in adopting OER, creating OER for their subject areas. And so we have quite a few people listed on here, and these are people who volunteer to, they volunteer, but they also get paid.
They get a stipend.
They get a small stipend to do this work. And so they are serving as ambassadors for OER, but also as resources for OER. So if you are there's some open leads, but you can see we have some leads from our areas too. Amanda Tainer at Reedley is the child development lead, and these folks, and she's also the early childhood education lead. And so reach out to these people if you have one, because they know a lot and they can connect you with a lot of resources. And then, of course, I mentioned me as the OER liaison, but we do have librarians, and our librarians love looking for stuff and finding things that'll be helpful for you. So I always recommend that you can reach, and we all, or the full-time librarians collect materials for specific subject areas within our collection. And so we can be really good resources, especially if maybe there's not a lot of OER, you've already looked, there's not a lot of openly licensed materials, but you want to see what's available in the library that's free for students. And so you can reach out to us. You can see our full-time librarians have specific subject areas that we collect in. And so I always recommend, if you are teaching music or fine arts, subjects, reach out to Siobhan to sit down and kind of look through or get some suggestions for resources to look for. But of course, if you have any questions about OER, no matter what subject area you teach in, you can reach out to me. I think that's all I have. I haven't looked at the chat. Are we good?
Just me.
Oh, okay.
And then Patricia asked for, is there a French lead? I don't know if there is.
I don't think, I haven't heard, no, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we have just a couple more minutes. If anyone has any questions for our subject experts over here, or for me, or for Linda, you can go ahead and just unmute yourself and ask your question, or anybody here in the room have a question? Yes.
I was wondering, especially for using any of these resources for like homework or assignments or anything that they might be doing outside of the classroom. I'm happy to hear that generally these are preferred, that students are more successful in these types of courses. But I'm concerned that as things move more and more and more online, that there's not as much of an expectation communicated to the students for like your digital literacy, for what technology that you would need to be able to operate or even access all of the materials we've provided them. So I was wondering if anyone had experience with that kind of a barrier and how you might address that, because I feel like I might have seen a little bit of that in the last semester.
So I don't know what the policies are exactly here, but
Talk loud, talk really loud.
I think even in my current face-to-face class here, because it is so augmented, I think there's a description in the schedule of courses.
Is there?
I know at Merced it was required to be there. This is my 4th year here, so I don't really look at all that stuff. But I think there's a description that it does use what resources, but most of my classes are hybrid also. And I teach in a computer lab. But first day class is always, this is what we're using. If you need help, let me help you with other resources. There's the other computer labs on campus that have not only our dedicated software, but you can use for other things also.
This is my second semester.
Yeah.
I did find out that I think one of the big computer labs is still not open.
Yeah,
So I'm
that is an
having
issue.
direct
That's an issue. We're not going to be able to solve that today, but yeah, that is a computer lab access for students.
But I didn't know
Yeah.
it's with success for
Yeah.
OER and providing everything. I
Yeah.
didn't know what the.
Yeah, so,
Option
so most of these materials can be printed. So we do have, our production office that will print any openly licensed materials that you have or any, free from the web materials that you have. So for my courses for linguistics, I make little packets for students and they're, like every unit, it's like a little packet, about 50 pages, and it just collects the articles that we're reading, some of the activities and some things, most of the things I found, but some of the things that I've written myself. And so that is one really fantastic bonus that we have here at Fresno City is that you can have anything printed through the production office for free for students as long as it's legal to print. If you try to print something that's illegal, they will not let you do that. But it's black and white only. So for some disciplines, that's an issue. And then, of course, like you said, those materials are mostly available online as well. So, but I know, I'm an EMLS teacher, which is ESL, and our discipline, we need to have physical books for the students, exercise activity books for students. That's really important and probably for a lot of different areas as well. So that's, that's basically what we do. Yeah. Yes. Question. Is there a question? Oh, yeah.
One message in the chat might be easier to read on there. Or do you want me to read it out? Is it open on there? Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we are over time. I know we have our lunch break right now, but we are over time. So I think Susie's probably going to shut this down. But if you have any questions or concerns or anything, just reach out to me. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.